Episode 23 of Real Talk is dedicated to the life and memory of Ramsey Davila. Thanks for all the memories, Rams, and we'll never forget you. It's Real Talk, episode 23, Amy Heckerling. Which of her films will score highest today? Mortgage broker and my high school English teacher, Mike Tullio, reviews Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Real Talk's resident sloth, Sid, talks National Lampoon's European Vacation. And my friend, director Laurie Schmo, debuts the great Clueless. Now quick, like this episode and subscribe or Spicoli won't share his pizza.
Real Talk is powered by Real Digital. If you work for a brand or agency producing content, keep it real by setting up a consultation at www.realdigital.media to see how your next campaign can come in ahead of schedule and under budget.
It's hard for me to remember a time when ordering a pizza that's delivered to your history class was a thing, but then again, it's difficult for me to remember anything that happened in my high school history class, and that's probably because my school wasn't populated with the future faces of Hollywood. Fast Time at Ridgemont High is a fast-moving young adult film that may earn its R rating for nudity and language, but more than compensates with a mature approach to themes most films in the genre avoid, while Amy Heckerling directs the story with wit and heart. Jennifer Jason Leigh was 20 when Fast Times was released, but don't let her age fool you because this film was already her 13th credited acting role in her career, which was only 3 years old. The young starlet was just getting started as she would go on to be in films like The Hudsucker Proxy, Road to Perdition, and The Hateful Eight, just to name a few. Her co-stars include Forrest Whitaker, Ray Walston, Phoebe Cates, Robert Ramones, Judge Reinhold, and one Sean Penn, who picked up the win for Best Supporting Actor just last year. Although we could easily fill 45 minutes going on about the cast, when it comes to visual storytelling, this isn't a film that gets in the way of itself, but does contain a sequence that might be more iconic than the actual movie is, which isn't something every coming-of-age story can say. When I reviewed Lady Bird, a film set during the time I was in high school, I called in a dear friend who was also in high school then. So for this, I doubled down on the high school card and called in a man who was both my high school English teacher, as well as in school when Fast Times took place. I'm so happy to have the incredible Mike Tullio, father, husband, brokerer of mortgages, and now Real Talk guest reviewer. Mike, welcome to the jungle. You didn't have to do the Pat Benatar look, but I do appreciate it.
Great to be here. Wow, I feel old. The fact that this movie was a movie that came out while I was in high school. The fact that I'm this man-child's teacher here who's interviewing me. There's a lot to unpack, but hey, no better place to do it than in the lion's den here.
That's right. And hey, look, you may feel old, but Mike, you look incredible, okay? You smell good. We lions, we have a very strong sense of smell, so
I think that I discovered that the high school drinking fountain was truly the fountain of youth, and spent a lot of time there. Secret's out now.
yeah, no, we like a little bit of breaking news on Real Talk. So to be kicking this, sorry to Ponce de Leon. Maybe he was in the wrong side of town when he should have just been swinging through Bayshore High.
Right state, wrong city. But
That's right. Well, I want to ask you. You mentioned this was in high school, or you were in high school when this came out. Did you see it when you were in high school? When was the first time you actually saw Fast Times at Ridgemont High?
no, I mean, I'm going to have a confession here. I heard it's good for the soul, but I did not see this when it first came out. In fact, I did not see it until last week. And of course, I saw bits and pieces over the years and heavily quoted Sean Penn, aka Spicoli, but I don't know, just never made it into my wheelhouse. I think movies were a little bit different back then because you kind of had to pay to go see them, and then Blockbuster came into the picture, and I was kind of under the umbrella of my household, and my parents were pretty strict, so horror movies like this did not make it on my movie going radar. But it's iconic, and I definitely enjoyed reliving some of the memories from, my high school days and thinking back to different times, much different than now. It was really cool to experience some of those same feelings, but also have teenage kids and experience some of their struggles and dynamics in their life, and probably many of these things they're not telling me.
Yeah, right. That's that. I think any parent that watches this is probably going to be looking at it through that lens of, oh wait, this reminds
You're
me.
like, where are the parents in this movie?
Look, you're in a safe place here. Your confession is accepted with love, embrace, and honestly a bit of a ditto because I missed this. I didn't see this movie until recently, but I think we're kind of saying the same thing. Is this is one of these movies where you watch it, you're like, oh, I feel like I've seen half of this already because so many movies have spoofed it or lampooned it in some way, which is one of the reasons I really did want to watch it on the show, and I'm kind of glad that we both have this fresh take going in. Earlier in the season, we reviewed Halloween with friend of the show Justin Tyler. Neither one of us had seen that classic somehow before, so it made for good chatting. As is the case here on the show, we get into plot first. And I want to ask you, I guess, two questions, two-tier questions. First question is, was there anything maybe that the movie contained that you were like, oh, I I forgot about that experience, or I maybe something that really resonated with you. And then I do want to kind of get your thoughts as a parent too, is something that maybe it reminded you of that you're like, oh yeah, maybe I need to be on top of this, or maybe I need to kind of look into it. So
One of my first impressions was the mall was the center of life. And, that was the entertainment to go hang out at the mall, go to the food court. Often there was a movie theater as part of the mall experience, but, we'd make our way there and meet up. It was one of the spots where life happened. Where I grew up, we had the Mill Creek Mall. Typical, had all the same, food and clothing and retail options, but, the experience was sometimes I'd go with my mom and she'd buy stuff or, sometimes meet up with friends, but I think that was so true to form, and it was fun to kind of like think back to those simpler days, pre-Amazon. Now I can just bring them all to me, and I don't have to fight traffic. I can just, make free returns and have, shopping at my fingertips. In a way, those times were better because it got us face to face and had real human connection by having these meeting places. High school campus, those were, friends that were for that season were kind of your
you're right.
go-tos when it came to like figuring life out or having fun or trying to achieve something, playing sports. So I think there's so many good things about the setting for the movie. It definitely took me back.
And I look, the mall, I'm so glad you brought it up because what a great epicenter, a whole ecosystem unto itself. When I was in high school, yeah, I mean, pretty much anytime you weren't at school, you were kind of going to the mall almost out of necessity, whether you were working there or you had to go get something. It wasn't always just to hang, even though a lot of times it was. Yeah, sometimes I forget what parking lots feel like, especially as a Lion who is based in Brooklyn. I'm like, oh, I remember the days where you had to park like 80 yards from wherever you were going to walk into.
You kind of have these fast food restaurants and typical places where teenagers work.
And even the hierarchy within that, which is funny. We hear the two villains talking about, well, you work at the best food stand in the mall. Is this sort of achievement?
You're the assistant manager. It's like, oh wow.
Did you have a specific job in high school? I'm curious. Well, I was a stock boy. That was or stock lion, I should say.
Right. You took the fresh carcasses and brought them to the consumers. But I did quite a few things. I actually worked in a grocery store, did stock. I was in a dentist office. I worked in a factory. I was also camp counselor. I just kind of did whatever opportunity presented itself and gave me a chance to make money, of course.
And I think that's one of the things that Fast Times does really well is that it's able, especially from a plot perspective, it's able to touch on all these sort of different experiences, but somehow is able to still show each experience through a couple different point of views, and I mentioned in my open that I feel like it is, although like it's a very sophomoric sort of story and sort of the events, like it is a mature handling of them, because we have everything as silly as somebody getting fired because they blow up on a customer, to again, kids just working together to try to figure out how to get other kids on a date, all the way to, having to handle an abortion and figuring that out. So there's, which nowadays, I mean, even since a movie like Juno, which is, I think, 13 some odd years old now, maybe even older when I do the math, that was a movie that really dealt with that. But we're talking about 1982 here. So I do feel like
Yes.
some of the themes that this is very comfortably navigating, which again we'll talk more about at the end when we get into themes. But from a plot perspective, I'm just curious because again, the runtime. This is a 90-minute movie. This is a very very short film, and so I don't know. I was really impressed by the amount of sort of bases it was able to cover in such a short amount of time.
It featured this lifestyle of teens and, young 20s. There's a lot you could tackle in that 90 minutes, but I think focusing on 4 or 5 main cast members and their experiences and feelings and seeing the lens through their eyes went a long way to helping me resonate with what they were going through and life, not only back then, but just life experiences for everyone in this age bracket. It really did handle a lot of things at the same time and not just have this slapstick, teen comedy.
It's a funny movie. There's a lot of, I mean, I laughed quite a bit, but there isn't anything that's like trying to pander to what I feel like they thought at the time maybe younger audiences would like. It's when you think about a movie that's made for young adults, a lot of times, again, the comedy can be very sort of juvenile, whereas I don't know. This is a very straightforward sort of approach, and even the kids in it, it's just very much sort of about what they're going through. It's hard for me to even think of any character in the film that has a goal that extends beyond the film. Again, a lot of high school movies, Lady Bird, which I mentioned earlier, that is a movie very much about a girl trying to figure out what college she wants to go to and where she's going to go. This is a movie that nobody's talking about college. Nobody's really talking about it beyond what's contained within the movie. And I don't know, maybe that just gives it more of, I guess, especially so many years later, more of that small town kind of feel where it just feels like these people are very much living in the moment. Which again, I guess my point is that makes it feel all the much more like a time capsule because it's so focused on just what's happening within the 90-minute runtime.
So true. But that is the mentality, like living in the moment and maybe living for the evening. Yeah.
Right.
And planning the next day. But that's about the extent of it. And it's infuriating as a parent because my 16-year-old daughter is very much in the moment. And this movie, I was like, nothing's changed. This is just how it is. I wish she was different. I wish they made better choices back then and she would make different decisions that are more forward thinking and intentional. But I don't know if the frontal lobe is fully developed until, guys, late 40s. But it takes a while. So the fact that they're living for the now and the movie doesn't try to make them something they're not really makes it authentic.
I got to ask, and I don't want to put you on the spot here, but I'm curious just because we brought it up earlier. You have a teenage daughter. You have a couple children. What is the new hangout? If it's not the mall, where are kids going? Or is it just the phone? Is everybody just kind of wherever they're at and they're just...
There's a lot of Snap, a lot of TikTok, a lot of Insta. So they do spend a lot of time on socials, and it's certainly a different dynamic, but they do have hangouts. My daughter goes to bonfires. At least that's what she says. So that's a thing. They'll go to Topgolf. They'll go to
Very cool.
The mall. So, things have come full circle, and like the UTC mall here is world class, and
Hell yeah.
there's tons of stuff to do. There's probably 50 restaurants. Unlike the malls of the Ridgemont High days where there was like 5 choices.
How about that pizza they were cooking? I mean, this is pre-Sabaro's mall. This is like you got a big square, just doughy pizza.
Things were a little bit more customized, and it was like that particular food was only served in that one restaurant.
Right.
And then chains happen like the Sabaros, and a lot centers around food. My daughter spends half her paycheck at Crumble, but it's something to do. Like, she went out with some friends to hang out last night, and then she's like, Dad, I'm going to stop at Taco Bell. I'm like, why? But that's just part of the experience. It's not that she really wants 3 taco supremes.
3 chalupas, yeah.
Like, it's more like, hey, our friends are going, so I'm going, and this is what we do.
This is probably a bad time to bring up that we are actually sponsored by Taco Bell. So I want to just say that all of our guests and their families, yeah, they love the Taco Bell. So do we. No, I wish we had sponsors. Well, all of that said, because we got a lot more to dive into, I got to get a number out of you. 1 out of 10. What would you give the plot? Just the plot of Fast Times at Ridgemont High?
Plot-wise, probably say 8.
The 8?
You know, they push this high school mall experience up to a new standard of, you know, what a movie should try to capture.
Oh,
But it's, you know, definitely still a high school mall, you know, adolescent experience movie.
totally agree. I mean, this isn't, again, and it's not a movie that's trying to be more clever than it needs to be. I think it's very solid. And yeah, I'll reveal my score at the end, but we're pretty close on that one. Characters and performances are up next. You mentioned it earlier, and I definitely wanted to get into it specifically. Is sort of what I think this movie does really well with the characters is nobody really ever knows what's going on. They're just always trying to figure it out, and because of that and because they're so young, there's not really good guys or bad guys. We have Mike Damone, who's played by Robert Ramones, who's the scalper. He's definitely kind of the more shady kid. But even then, there's an innocence to him because you could see he's just trying to be cool and trying to figure out and play this. He's clearly kind of for it. And so when he has the opportunity to actually like be what he's kind of been pretending to be, he does it, but he does his friend dirty by doing that. And so I don't know, it's
Yeah.
interesting that it's not, like I said, it's not overly complex, but it's very simple, but I don't know, it explores the things well. I'm curious, did you ever have any students trying to sell you like Celine Dion tickets? And then obviously B, maybe what did you think about some of these characters and their performances?
I agree. You kind of have these characters in the making, and you start to see who they are as revealed through actions and interactions and situations. Like Damone, yeah, you kind of wonder what he's up to, and he does seem like he's got the cool factor. But then you peel back layers when he's in, this very difficult situation with Stacy, and she's like, I'm pregnant, and she unloads this on him, and he has to either man up and pay, half of, his responsibility or bail, and he bails. Just figuring this out, and, that's a lot to handle, same with even getting into that relationship. If you're truly friends with Brad, like you just don't do that. So you're testing your morality and it's all situational. You could go in saying like, I'm a good guy, but when you're tested, you find out if your actions and words match up. I love that aspect of like, hey, these gals are just figuring things out as they go. And like you said, they're not amoral, but they're not like evil or good. It's just part of the human experience that you're seeing. And sometimes you cringe as a viewer, you're like, oh, that's not a great decision. Like, why would you do that? And other times you're like, wow, that surprised me. Like Brad showing up for his sister,
Yeah.
like that's kind of a surprising moment in the movie. And it just shows like you have this bond as brother, sister that, extends beyond the household. It's kind of your tie in life. I feel the same about my brother and my sister. It's interesting because there is some complexity, and it's revealed more through their words and actions than someone telling us, well, this is what this person's about.
Yeah, no, and there's just little moments and details that we get. You mentioned Brad, or the Judge Reinhold character, and he drops his sister off. He thinks she's going, I think, bowling. And then, there's just
Right.
there's the little shot of him seeing in the rearview mirror that she's not in the crossing street.
Yeah.
That's all the information we need to know, because we know Brad knows, but we don't know, is Brad going to go tell his parents? What's he going to do? So just that moment when she comes out and she being Stacy, when she finds her brother, it's this really nice, sweet moment, because we get to experience that. We're just as surprised as Stacy is. And even going back to Damone, there is a scene, it's very short, but it's him calling the people that owe him money, and he very clearly is trying to pull his half together to help pay for this abortion.
Right.
And we the audience see that he fails at this. Like, he fails at being able to raise the money. So although we know he bails on her, it is this, we kind of understand it's this added level of humiliation. Like, this guy's got to now call and tell his girl, I can't even afford to help you. So he just doesn't show up. And when you zoom out and look at, again, the plot and the sort of love triangle, you have Brian, who's sort of I don't even know that I'd call him nerdy. He's just kind of a normal, goofy kid. He works at the movie theater, which always gets points here on, Real Talk. But you have him as this, again, he kind of looks up to
Sure, Quentin Tarantino.
That's right.
Looking at the video store, yeah.
Stacy was, and Stacy, who would go on to, of course, be in Hateful Eight. So very much maybe the next Quentin Tarantino there. I think what is interesting, it does, is when you zoom out and you see that Damone kind of seems cool to some people, but at the end of the day, he is this kid who doesn't have a real job. His sexual prowess wasn't exactly showcased. He wasn't this marathon.
Right.
And so we see maybe
But for about 5 seconds. So
there is this consistent level where, like, he's presented as a cool guy, but then we very much see the opposite. And in the end, Brian and Stacy, for all intents and purposes, get together. They have a relationship. And so there is also this sort of nicer message that's a little subtle through the characters, which is, it's easy to be cool. It's easy to look hot or whatever in a moment or two. But to what you were saying earlier, it all comes down to integrity. It comes down to when you're not playing a game, when you're being honest and you're being who you are. And unfortunately for Damone, when he's being honest, he just can't really perform. He can't come up with the money. He can't kind of be the slick guy he wants to be. And so, Brian, who's just sort of honest, and his sexual encounter with Stacy is him just leaving because he doesn't know what to do and he's nervous, and they start kissing and he leaves. And so when you juxtapose those two and you see who the girl ultimately goes back with in the end, not only do I think that's redeeming for Stacy, but it is just a nice reminder of the movies. It's just, especially for kids, it's like, slow down and don't try to, again, be something you think you need to be, and just be okay with being who you are.
Right. And that's the hardest work you have to do as a person, not just in adolescence, but in life.
Yep.
So you have this Fast Times that's always going to be calling you. It's going to be driving you. It is what society promotes with fast food and fast decisions and money now and get rich quick. But the reality is when you are intentional and slow down and make decisions over time and not in the moment, you're right. You do kind of have this narrative that plays out in a much healthier way. You can make far better decisions. I love that. It showed that in the movie.
The cool factor is sort of everything. And what this movie does is it goes out of its way to reward non-cool characters. Before I go any further, of course, I got to bring up Spicoli, because when we're talking about genuineness and integrity, I think what's really interesting about the Spicoli character, and what I believe sort of wins him over for Mr. Hand in the end, is this kid is really sincere. It is just sort of who he is. Like, he's not putting on a show. He's not trying to get attention. He's just completely checked out.
Yeah, you have this whole Spicoli logic that plays out. You want so badly to disagree with him, just like Mr. Hand did, but in the end, there was a lot of truth in the way that he approached things, the way he thought, the things he said. He stayed true to himself while still having this dynamic where he was like, all right, this Mr. Hand might have something to offer me. Of course, you laugh because Spicoli's just a goofball surfer, pothead. But, he's also searching, just like all of these, young characters. They're searching for the voice. They're searching for the mentor. They're searching for the truth. I think Spicoli got some good advice. Maybe you can't wing it all your life. You do have to have a plan.
Yeah.
You got to deliver. You got to produce.
I appreciate you saying that because I do want to mention. I mean, I mentioned earlier, obviously, you were a teacher of mine, and in various episodes in the show, Al's talked a little bit about his past and his history, and yeah, I had a rough high school experience. Just a lot of stuff going on at home. Again, I've talked about some of that before here on the show, so I won't go into too much detail. But for me, high school was incredibly difficult. I remember the first day homeroom thinking, oh, this is gonna be a long 4 years. I remember thinking like, I gotta figure out how to get through this because this is not gonna be easy. And it was extremely difficult for me. And I definitely, when I look at a guy like Spicoli, although I was not a stoner surfer lion, I do kind of connect with a lot of it. And I think what's interesting about the dynamic with Mr. Hand is that he's very hard on him, very, kind of cold, rigid, which I knew teachers like that. But then, yeah, I was very fortunate to have a handful of teachers, yourself coming in at number one, who did take time and make me feel like seen and understood and heard. And there were many a day after school where I would be hanging out in Mr. Tullio's class, either writing or working on a book or practicing stand-up comedy. I For the last 20 years, I kid you not, every time I talk about the few years I did stand up, I do always say, I never had a time when I did stand up where my parents came. The first time I did stand up in a comedy club in McCurdy's, shout out McCurdy's in Sarasota, Florida. Yourself, Mr. Tulio was there with David Stubbs, who I do again keep in touch with to this day. And that meant the world to me then. It means the world to me now. So I just say this more to validate you than anything, that I can certainly say you achieved that, because I don't know what my high school experience would have been like if there wasn't a Mike Tullio who could kind of see what was going on, but could also be more than what the school board was necessarily asking them to be.
Right.
And this all comes back to, again, Mr. Hand literally going to Spicoli's house at the end of the movie and staying with him, which I'm sure some people could flip into that being weird and an overstep or whatever, but I definitely interpret it as this guy cares. Like, this guy really cares about this kid and sees that he's being genuine and wants to damn sure make sure that this kid's not going to make a mistake. And I think that that's a really cool dynamic between the character. And when we talk about visuals and we talk about use of color, contrast is so important. And if you want something to seem incredibly colorful, you only need two colors. If you put blue in front of orange, it pops because they're these primary colors. And we see that as such a great example with Spicoli and Mr. Hand. They're completely opposite colors, but you put them together and it becomes satisfying and saturated with meaning.
That's a great insight. And thank you for the feedback, too. I do think back fondly on those days and remember like having my overhead projector, and there was a manila folder with a circle cut out of it, and that was our spotlight. And then
That's
we
right.
cut out our comedy and our jokes, and we did, roasts and whatever else we could come up with. I think in the end, people want four things in life. They want to be seen, they want to be heard, valued, and understood. And that's what these young people are looking for and are still looking for in this movie. And they're going to get that validation or the ability to be seen in any way they can, because that's one of our greatest human needs. So if it's an older guy that's like, hey, let's go on a date. How old are you? I'm 19. Then that's the way it's going to happen. If it's, I'm going to order pizza in class, that's how it's going to happen. If it's status achieved by doing well on the football field, like Charles Jefferson, or anything where we will find our way to satisfy that need. So the greatest gift you can give somebody is to see, hear, value, and understand.
I love that. No, that's so well put. The only thing I can do now is get a grade out of you for characters and performances because it was beautiful.
They're going to get a 9 on portraying like that authentic experience in the moment, going through the emotions that they would if this was real life.
There's a game that I prepared that I want to play. I feel like this is a good time to play it. I call the game Teacher's Pet. You, of course, being the teacher in this scenario. So what I'm going to do is give you, there's 4 rounds. You're going to have a fast time at Ridgemont High option and then another cinematic option you'll get to choose between. And thus, we will find out in each category who is the teacher's pet. Does that make sense? Are you ready to play?
I am ready.
Okay. I got to give verbal confirmation. I hate to, All right.
Yes.
Teacher's pet, round 1. Who is the better history professor? Mr. Hand or Dr. Indiana Jones?
I'm going to go with Jones. I just feel like he kind of has the breadth of knowledge and experience to navigate far more than just the classroom.
Do you think his interaction with the Ark of the Covenant might give him a little more weight than Mr. Hand, who maybe has just read about such things?
Absolutely. That series may have stretched 2 or 3 movies longer than it needed to, but in every case, he outwitted the perils of finding and capturing the bad guys and reclaiming artifacts, treasures, and pride.
That's right. Well, maybe not that last one if you've seen the last few movies, but hey, if you live long enough to become a relic as a movie character, maybe that's what they were doing. Shout out to James Mangold, who did the last one. Okay, Dr. Indiana Jones, locked in, teacher's pet. Next round, who is the better high school football player? Forrest Whitaker's Charles Jefferson or Ryan Gosling's Alan Boozley from Remember the Titans?
Ooh. I feel like Charles Jefferson was just like a one-man wrecking machine. So I'm going Charles, especially after seeing his smashed car. He really fed off that negative energy, and I think they won the game 42-0 after.
I think that's right.
He channeled his rage. He probably would have gotten some good offers to colleges, no doubt.
You look, I'm right there with you. That's who I'd pick. The last King of Scotland held it down for the team. Also, some very aggressive pins for the other school team. What was that? Like assassinate Lincoln, kill Lincoln.
Oh yeah,
it's like, all right, this is
yeah.
Before the days of school shootings, because that's a whole
big time. That dates the movie because some of the references and political incorrectness, although refreshing, it's still kind of shocking.
Yeah, that one I was like, who? Yeah. Oh, that's the other school. Okay, copy that. Round.
Oh, assassinate. I mean, that's
very
strong.
Very strong. But I mean, Whitaker did maybe just that. He done laid out a lot.
That was part of the high school experience, was pep rallies and having this the student body be a part of everything that's happening, whether it's sports or academics or anything else. So, my wife mourns the loss of the high school experience, and she's like, tells my daughter, I just want you to have the experience I had. And I'm like, man, that's ambitious. I don't know if, I guess it exists. It looks a lot different than it used to.
Well, and I would imagine that, again, just things like social media, the need for community is extended so much more because whatever it's like when I was in high school, I liked stand-up comedy. I think there were like 3 of us, and in the county. And, but if I was in high school and had social media, I could be connecting with hundreds, if not thousands of teens all over the country and the world. And so, I would imagine just that that's
so true. Like my son started talking about this friend, Nick, that had a similar car. And he's like, I'm going to this car show to meet Nick. And he comes home. He's like, Nick didn't show up, and I'm like wondering if Nick's a real person. Like, is Nick catfishing him? Is he just like a figment of his imagination? and then the next car meet, Nick's there. And it turns out I'm friends with Nick's dad. And he goes to a different school, but they have this common bond of liking sports cars. And so it reconnected me with Nick's dad, and it's just such a strange way that we're tied together now.
Right.
And the lines are so blurred between high schools, whereas they were extremely well delineated back in, the Ridgemont High days.
All of that said, we picked The Last King of Scotland, like I said. So two more here. Which fast food establishment are you going to on your lunch break? Captain Hook Fish and Chips or Good Burger?
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm more of a beef guy, so I'm going Good Burger. That's more of a fit for, my laid back vibe.
I mean, look, Brad took one bite of that fish and spit it out and quit his job. So I don't think I don't know if that was much of an endorsement for Captain Hook Fish and Chips.
Had a bad experience at an Arthur Treacher's many years ago, so we'll just leave it at that.
I won't ask any follow-up.
No, being a carnivore yourself, of course, you're going Good Burger.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, this fish. What are you kidding me? I mean, maybe for Lent or something, but I mean, I'm alive. I gotta get his L burger in there. All right.
Practice Lent.
Who in 1982 was a bigger teen heartthrob? Jennifer Jason Leigh or star of the groundbreaking TV film The Executioner song, Tommy Lee Jones? So Jennifer Jason Leigh versus Tommy Lee Jones. Who would you designate as the bigger teen heartthrob in 1982 specifically?
Hands down, Jennifer Jason Leigh. She just slayed back then.
We got Dr. Jones teaching history. You've got Forrest Whitaker's Charles Jefferson holding down the team. You're taking a lunch break at Good Burger and probably going to have a poster of Jennifer Jason Leigh on your wall instead of Tommy Lee Jones. Fair enough. But that concludes Teacher's Pet. Thank you for playing. That brings us to
better man for having played.
And again, that's what we're here to do. We're here to bring our guests on and try to elevate them a little bit. I can only do so much, but achieved. That brings us to visual storytelling. It's not a movie that was constructed to look a certain way. It's just a very straightforward, natural film. That doesn't mean that there isn't plenty of quality visual storytelling being done. I mean, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about what has to be the most iconic sequence in the movie, which is when Phoebe Cates' Linda is sort of getting out of the pool. This is, of course, a fantasy of Brad's. This isn't actually happening. But my heaven, I mean, that sequence has been recreated in movies. I mean, I remember being in high school, there was a song, Stacy's Mom, and they recreated that whole scene for the music video. So although I would not talk about this movie as being this stellar example of cinematography as it stands to frames that you would maybe hang on your wall, I do think it is a great example of cinematography in that it's very natural and it creates these memorable moments that are wonderful visual representations of the sort of experience.
Yeah, you get Spicoli piling out of the van. There's just moments where you feel like you're either happy you're there or meant to be there, or you're an outsider intruding and we're like, whoa, I don't know if I was supposed to see this. You kind of get that feeling all along the way. At least I did. You're right. Natural is a very good word to describe the feeling of the way that the camera lens tells the story. You kind of get this bounciness, this like walk alongside. This isn't like they're trying to feature the scenery or the special effects or anything other than the people. The supporting cast members are the mall and the school and the pool and the cars, all about the people and experiencing feelings and things along with them.
Did notice, and I appreciated that most of the movie, the camera is just locked off or on a tripod. But in certain moments in particular, when Damone and Stacy have their, albeit very brief, love scene in the changing room near the pool, it does switch to handheld. And I did notice that in the moment because in a scene that is sort of awkward and there's a tension to it. I did really appreciate that choice. Now again, they're in a very small, basically in a closet, so framing that up and again being locked off, so to speak, pretty much impossible unless you want like a security camera angle. But it still does, I feel like, aid the visual storytelling because there is a looseness and a rawness that immediately, sort of happens when we go into that room. So although subtle, there were a few moments like that I did appreciate. The cinematography really,
Yeah, the editing choices too. Like
Yeah.
I read that scene in particular would have made this an X movie. But they edited the full frontal view of Spicone out, and that was able to reclassify the movie as R. So I think Amy Heckerling was really trying to get at the awkwardness and the whole adolescent experience and made maybe some concessions to say, all right, well, if I want this to reach a broader audience, then I'm going to have to make choices with how I, portray this moment and all the moments. So I think she did just enough where you're like, oh wow, that feels real. But yeah, I think the cinematography aspect had to fit in the lens of what was happening in 1982.
Well, just Ashton, then visual storytelling, 1 out of 10.
Felt like I was part of the experience. Um, it's hard not to put my 2026 lens on and think of all this CG and how immersive the experience is. But if I kind of keep it back in my 80s memory bank and try to imagine what I was feeling at that time, I probably would have been like, this is an 8. If I rated it with like modern day storytelling and narratives and experience, then probably be a 5. But
Sure.
for what it is and was, definitely hitting the 8s.
That brings us to use of sound. I really love the soundtrack of this movie. Like, I mean, I liked a lot of things about this movie. That was one part that it really was better than I thought it would be because I was like, oh, I expected there to be a few, needle drops in here. But I mean, like every track in this movie, I'm just like so there for. I really, really
Yes.
liked it. Yeah. Wow. What a great soundtrack. I have another point I want to make, but I'll at least throw to you there because yeah, I just loved it.
Oh yeah, I mean you got Sammy Hagar, you got the Go-Go's, Joe Walsh, Don Henley, so like most of the Eagles. So like whoever was popular at that time, somehow they, threw together a dozen and a half songs that just fit. You got Uptown Boys and Speeding and Love is the like. There's definitely, I mean, Fast Times at Ridgemont High. That was an anthem for Sammy Hagar. So
Yeah.
I'm a huge music guy, so that's one of my hobbies. I would say like I just listen to music and I'll pick an artist and go on Spotify and just stream whatever else comes up. But this was kind of a soundtrack that did that for you.
And again, it is clever. I just looked and now I already forgot it. Somebody's Baby, which is a track that's played, and it almost becomes like Stacy's sex anthem. Like whenever she's
Yeah.
having sex, and just generally associating a specific track with one character's experience and that motif only existing in that way, that is funny. Like that, there's a lightheartedness to it.
Right.
But
It's like a very Star Wars, like Empire Strikes Back, where like Vader had his and Kenobi had his and Luke Skywalker. It's like, you kind of had this like each character is assigned some type of anthem or
right.
orchestral arrangement.
Yeah, what was it? Brian, was it Zeppelin that he was trying to play in the car? Am I confusing that?
Oh yeah, yeah, right.
She's, but it's such a again because Somebody's Baby, which is also again just the track selection,
Right. You gotta play Zeppelin. Yeah.
the two like it's like bone on bone. It's like yeah, Somebody's Baby and Zeppelin. It's like no, those two things do not go together. Which in and of itself, again, very funny. But the track selection of Somebody's Baby also kind of a nice. We let you think about it a little bit in terms of again sex, and I think that Amy Heckerling as a director again in 1982 I think probably has a very specific point of view to young men who are probably flocking
Oh,
to the movie because they hear, oh, there's multiple sets of breasts in there. But then there's this layer of like, hey, remember, this is somebody's baby, this is somebody's daughter. And I don't know, like I
Well,
thought
she
that
was like super in tune with like that high school, and like she worked with high school musicals, right? Prior to like this was kind of her first big release.
right.
So I don't think she was far removed at all from that experience. And that gave her a distinct advantage in painting these pictures and having these sounds and trying to evoke the feelings.
No, totally. And I love that again, so many times if a song is used as like a punchline, or not a punchline, but even just punctuation, maybe, it's not much more than that. But this is more than that. It is the repetition is funny. But then when you start to think about the lyrics, you start to think about the experience. It really does humanize it in a way that is rare because you don't usually go from funny to like, oh, especially as a young man, you're like, oh, I kind of see something from a different perspective. So I think that's profound, I think is the word I'm looking for. Use of
Yeah.
sound. What
No,
would you give it?
I definitely feel the same. I would 10 that one just because there's so many iconic uh, songs that enhance the movie experience and not detract from it or drown it.
Totally. The 10 is in. That brings us to the final, the senior round, if you will. There's five categories, so it doesn't work so well. Maybe somebody repeated a year here in real talk, but uh, themes is what we're talking about now. We've touched on it a bunch already, so we don't have to go on and on. But for me, I think just authentic, being your authentic self, figuring out what that means. And conversely, by being inauthentic, the kind of ramifications of that, the ripple effect of that is maybe a better way of putting it. Adolescence and youth and high school, but I'm especially as as a parent, I'm curious, were there any themes that maybe resonated with you that you didn't expect to come from a movie of this ilk?
I tried to keep flipping the switch between self and parent, and it's hard to separate the two. But just as a consumer male, once teen, I think there were definitely some rites of passage or things that you think you should experience to get all of what high school offers or what it means to be happy or satisfied or winning in life. So I think when you come out of the other side of those experiences, sometimes it's not what you thought it would be. People aren't who you thought they would be. That did resonate with me is, oh man, I already know they're going to mess this up. Or you start predicting based on the first 15, 20 minutes of who this person is or what they'll do. And I liked the surprises of them not being what they looked like.
Right.
For me, that was the refreshing aspect. Is like, all right, these people aren't predictable. They're humans. They're making choices based on feelings and circumstances and advice, good and bad, and that's what we all do. So it wasn't like this person played a good guy and this person, played the damsel in distress and this person played the idiot. I
Right.
think everybody was just kind of being who they were and finding out who they wanted to be. Yeah, it just felt real and it was fun to watch. I watched it by myself.
I was gonna ask if you
Yeah,
watched this with the kids or not, because I feel like that might have been a little awkward at some point.
yeah, I did. I was like, man, you know what? I got some time. It was my birthday, and so I kind of had license to, be a little bit more like whatever I want goes. I was
I
like,
am
I'm gonna watch this.
I'm so honored, by the way, that Fast Times got the birthday watch
Yeah.
for Real Talk. Wow, this is again. I choose to absorb that as a compliment. Was not necessarily set up that way. It's been really awesome for me to be able to do this and have a conversation like this and have you come in. And I would be remiss if I did not reveal your score to you. Of course, I have been keeping track this whole time. Um, you gave the plot an 8. You gave the characters and performances a 9, the visual storytelling an 8, the use of sound a 10, and the themes a 9 for a total of 88, which on Real Talk is a solid A. That's an easy A here.
Round up. That's what we do.
That's right. Well, we do 80 to 100 as an A here. So we switched the, because I'm like, well, if you're going to ignore the bottom like 60, why are we even going out of 100? So, that's lion logic.
Right.
80.
Good rationale there.
Yeah, that's the Florida school system paying off. But what would you want to go with an A plus? You do have the ability, of course, to adjust. You can give it an A minus. You can do whatever you want, honestly.
I like 88. That says it all.
All right. The 88, the A is locked in. To your 8, I gave the plot an 8. To your 9, I gave the characters and performances a 9. Visual storytelling, I gave it a 7 to your 8. Use of sound, we both gave it a 10. And theme, I gave it an 8 to your 9. So we were like neck and neck the whole time. I gave it an 84 to your 88. We both gave it an A. That's an average of 86. That may or may not have been the year Al was born. So, I feel like it's all worked out. This is all meant to be. This was a really fun watch for me. I'm really glad I checked it out. Amy Heckerling was a director. I have always been kind of familiar with her work, but haven't really dove into it too much. So up next, I'm going to be talking about European Vacation, and we're closing out the show talking Clueless. So some good movies coming up here. But this was, like I said, really, really fun. I appreciate you making the trip to the jungle. I'd love to have you back sometime. So I gotta again put you on the spot here. Maybe what's one or two of your favorite movies? If you were going to review another one, what would come?
I'm definitely a Matrix fan.
Yes, of course.
That movie blew my mind, and I may or may not be jacked in right now, and this is my human experience. But
I wondered what that was coming out of the back of your head.
yeah, well, this is my residual self anyway. But also a big Star Wars fan. I still have many of the collectibles from the original, like late 70s, early 80s. In a Darth Vader head carrying case.
Wow.
So it's definitely part of one of my life themes. I'm not on the dark side or light side. I'm somewhere in the middle. So I think I would love to be part of any of the Star Wars reviews. But there's a lot of other stuff I like too.
No, I mean, look, I love both of those. Season 2, I do know, I have it on good authority. We are going to be doing a Wachowski's episode. So we're definitely going to do The Matrix then, if not, come back to it at other points. And Star Wars, Star Wars is just ever present. We're always touching on Star Wars here or there. So very good to know. Do you have a favorite Star Wars movie? Is that even, that's a tough question
I would,
sometimes.
I'm going Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah. That is my favorite as well. We did
arguably the best sequel of all time.
Look, move aside Godfather 2. I'll take I'll take
it's a close second.
I'll take Empire any day of the week. Yeah, I think Empire, great sequel, best Star Wars movie. Some of my friends, we argue it's a great Christmas movie between the snow and some of the lights, that make up our Cloud City
backdrop.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot. That was my favorite. We did get into that. We did a review on episode 20. I was very fortunate enough. My good friend Abby White, who was the VFX coordinator on Avatar 2, she came through and we reviewed Empire. But there's a good chance again we're going to come back to Empire at some point because it's just so great. You can't keep a Kirshner dog down, and that's a thing. But
well said. And I've probably watched thousands of movies over my lifetime, so I'm not opposed to being in the mix with really any of them. So
amazing. Well, you will get the call again. I can guarantee you that, because this was too much fun for me to contain to just one experience. But again, thank you so much for coming through the jungle. As I mentioned in my open, you are a mortgage broker, so of course, if there's anybody who may be interested or looking for some help, your information is linked in the bio. But otherwise, they can go to Red Door Management. Is that right? MTG.
Red Door Mortgage. Yeah.
Red Door
MTG.
That's right.
Check it out. And I'm licensed in Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee, Alabama. So if you're wanting to get out of the north and maybe going halfway down or all the way down to Florida, I can help.
I love it. Southeast, eat your heart out. We got your guy right here. No, amazing. Again, thank you for coming by. And until next time,
Sure.
just don't let Spicoli drive.
Platinum Plastic isn't just a proud sponsor of Real Talk, they're also the home for all our new designs and merchandise. Follow Platinum Plastic on Redbubble to see all our A-plus gear. That's Platinum Plastic on Redbubble for all your Real Talk merch.
Today's episode was designed to shine a light on a female voice that doesn't get brought up a lot in film circles these days, which is a shame when you consider her directing credits include Fast Times at Ridgemont High and Clueless. But after screening National Lampoon's European Vacation, I better understand why that filmography doesn't have the same luster as some of her contemporaries. This vacation with the inconsistently spelled Griswold family is both a sequel and a lesson in how to try and make a movie for the entire family that unfortunately doesn't end up appealing to anyone in the family. That said, on a reasonable budget for the time of $17 million, the goofy caricatures of middle-class Americans abroad earned a respectable $49.3 million domestically. I think if I ever went on a trip to Europe, you could bet your tail I'd be inviting my good buddy Sid the Cinema Sloth to join me. That is, if he's willing to splurge on a first-class branch. But hey, maybe we can win a trip from the one and only Gomez Adams after he forces himself on a minor. How's that sound, Sid?
Yeah, I think I would like to go to Europe, and I would like to see John Astin held accountable for that.
Yeah,
No,
well,
yeah, that was strange.
yeah, Pig in a Poke host Kent is the character name, so maybe we should be pointing our finger more at Kent than
Yeah, John Astin. I mean,
John,
it's Sean Astin.
yeah, this
John
game with
Astin, yeah.
telephone has really canceled a few of the wrong people. Anyway, Sid, it's so great to have you here. I thought that
Thanks.
was an appropriate open considering it's National Lampoons. I figured, well, I'll open with a really dark, weird joke that might make people uncomfortable. But I'm not uncomfortable. I'm very comfortable and happy to have you back. Thanks for crawling back. Is that what that is on a branch? You guys crawl on the branches, right?
I think it depends on the direction. Up is climb,
This is more of a lateral move, I guess.
horizontals, yeah, it'd be like a crawl. It's a crawl because let's face it, I'm not going fast.
If it's one thing we've established. Well, Sid, let me ask you, you're a funny sloth. I'm assuming you're familiar with the National Lampoon's franchise. Was this one, had you seen this one before the screening? I mean, I think most people like myself have seen the original, have seen Christmas Vacation, but outside of those two, it seems like it's a real toss-up of quality and, again, what people are familiar with.
Yeah, well, I saw it a long time ago. Not when it first came out, but when I was younger. And the thing is, it never really impressed me like the other ones. I loved the first one. I loved Christmas Vacation. Somehow I've ended up seeing Vegas Vacation a bunch of times, but yeah, this one always felt like the Temple of Doom of the of those movies. You have these the first and the third movie are really great, and then the second movie is kind of like and then you have the fourth movie coming in, which kind of feels like nobody considers it part of the original trilogy, and then after enough time goes by, people will go, oh, that's all right too, that's part of it. With time, having seen this movie again with time, it's not that I like it any better, but I don't dismiss it as much as I used to.
But just to clarify, European Vacation, Temple of Doom, does that make Vegas Vacation, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that earnest confirmation. I guess the question is then, in this, the year of our Lord, upon watching it, as you well know, you're one of the all-time heavy hitters here on the show. You've been here more than just about anybody. And we start up by talking about the plot. This movie starts out on a game show, as we touched on. The Griswold family win, to the surprise of everyone, this trip to Europe, which at some points is the exact opposite of what they thought it would be, and at other points is exactly what they thought it would be, which is kind of odd. But regardless, they get into your kind of standard, I don't know, romps that you might expect from a family comedy. But the last 10 minutes of the movie, and I looked at the time, 10 minutes, and that includes the credits. This turns into like a weird chase film
Remind me, what were the very last 10 minutes?
when the mom gets kidnapped.
Well, even in the third one, Eddie kidnaps his boss. So there's a kidnapping in the third one.
True, but the
Um,
boss isn't a main character.
no, I'll tell you what I found weird about it, and not weird necessarily in a bad way, but definitely weird in a way that stood out to me. I'm guessing it's the third act, but when the caper guys, the bad guys, which is what the kidnappers, they just appear out of nowhere, and it's the only time I think in any of the movies where there's no Griswolds in the movie. It's just from their point of view.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
That threw me a little bit because, like, all of a sudden, it did not feel like a vacation movie.
No, that's a really interesting distinction and a good point to make because I didn't even notice that detail specifically, but you're right. But I did feel like this distinct shift in tone, and that's really when it begins, when we kind of get introduced to these characters that clearly taking advantage of the Griswolds. But again, we don't really ever know like to what extent these criminals are. They seem to have a business which is or robbing. It maybe in the process of
Right.
robbing, like it was difficult.
Well, there's a guy in the trunk and he's alive.
And so that's
so strange. Yeah, the
it's
whole
like,
time.
my
he's-
understanding is he maybe runs this like passport service. They were robbing that service, but then for some reason they continue to like go after the Griswolds, and it's very confusing because all
Yeah,
of this
it's a
happens
very
like
convoluted.
over an hour into the movie.
Yeah.
And so you've been enjoying this. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't been enjoying the comedy, and then all of a sudden you're getting this weird, like again, almost like Taken type of movie where there are these criminals introduced. To your point,
Yeah.
we're seeing it from their perspective. Ellen Griswold gets kidnapped, and it's up to Clark to sort of save the day. Very strange, like again, just way to wrap up this movie that seemed to come out of absolutely nowhere.
I'm thinking to the first one though, where they do take John Candy hostage, and then they have to deal with the police. But it does feel different. But I think it's because it just veers off to a different type because they're not in it in some of the scenes, like I said, and I feel like that's really what's throwing me, anyways.
Well, it's just such a tonal shift. It doesn't seem like from the moment Ellen gets kidnapped, it doesn't seem like any of it's really played for laughs. Like again, there's less than 10 minutes
No,
left
yeah.
in the movie.
It feels like like an episode of McMillan and Wife or something, or McCloud, like something from the 70s, like like just a drama show that you'd watch on TV or movie, and it's like there's all kinds of action going on, but there's no real, you're not worried about anything actually bad happening to anybody. It's just filler almost. I mean, and with that movie, well, with this movie, I feel like the first act, or is kind of like, I feel like they played a bunch of jokes that they already did in the first movie, and it's just, I feel like everything is set up and you see it way ahead of time, and then I feel like the second act is really where any good things happen in that movie, or when they actually get to Europe and start doing the different countries, and then it's like they didn't have a way to finish it or something, or I don't know. So then you get the end with that weird kidnapping. So, I mean, that's one reason why the movie's weak, because, I mean, there's really only one strong act of the whole movie.
And which act would you say is at the beginning, or you're saying
The second, I think.
Yeah, where they're just enjoying Europe. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, that's where to me, the few jokes that really land. There's not a lot of laugh out loud jokes. There's a couple, I guess.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, I really only chuckled a few times. I mean, we'll probably get to them. I guess overall, Sid, well, let's give the plot a score then. What at 1 out of 10, what would you score this vacation?
I gave it an 8 out of 10.
An 8 out of 10. All right, high mark.
Yeah, well, yeah. You know what? I know, but what we didn't talk about is the underage, all the underage sex jokes. I mean, there was a few, man, which I know it's of the time, and they're making fun of maybe of it, but it's just
But that is what's interesting when we think about it through the lens of Amy Heckerling, who's the director here. This is through a, I don't want to say it's through a female lens. I mean, the franchise is established at this point. It's she's coming in to do the job. She's a hired gun director. But when I did see some of those scenes that were really overt and really made me uncomfortable, it did almost feel like there was maybe a little bit of like rubbing the nose in it, especially at the beginning. We're talking about this joke
yeah, yeah,
where
I
the
could see
game
that.
show host like forces himself on
Right.
the mother, which I hate to say that's funny, but it is kind of a trope with old school game show hosts where they
Yeah,
always
especially the Family Feud, Richard Dawson.
Richard Dawson.
Richard
There,
Dawson would
yeah.
kiss every female contestant he'd kiss,
And so
and yeah,
when you see that, you get the joke. It's funny, but when he gets to
sure,
the daughter, and again, they're all in these pig suits. This is not the same actress from the first movie, so you're getting in.
right,
She just looks so young. I mean, she looks like a child, like so unbelievably young. And he just plants this really long kiss on her. Yeah,
yeah,
it is so. And I again looked, it's about 3.5 minutes into the movie, and I was like,
right,
oh, boy, I didn't expect to feel this way, this uncomfortable, especially this soon. But my point is, from a female perspective, as the director, I almost wonder if she's kind of almost forcing the issue, being like, yeah, this is happening. Like, if this makes
right,
you
right,
uncomfortable, as opposed to just this sort of like stupid joke that hasn't aged well. I don't know. I'm not trying to
right.
inject
Well,
meaning
well,
into it.
because I mean, like, I
There's
like the
something
whole
there.
point. It like cuts to Chevy Chase's character, like looking like, what the hell's going on? It felt like it just felt like unnecessary, or it just felt like, okay, I'm gonna be in for a bunch of this.
I think it would be very strange to not shine a light on that particular instance because, yeah,
Mm,
I mean, it is right at the beginning of the movie, completely unnecessary. When, like I said, it's a tacked on joke. Like the kiss with the
yeah,
mom
yeah,
got a laugh out of me. I was like, oh,
right.
that's really funny. And then when he kisses the daughter, it's just like, what is going on here? Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I'll tell you what I think is funny about that scene is, well, first of all, everyone always hits on Ellen, which is kind of a trope of those movies. So that's kind of funny. Is he's kind of like supposed to be like how this guy land this beautiful woman, right? But what I find really funny is he goes up to her, does the kiss. He doesn't even say hello to the son.
yeah.
He walks right past them to go to the girl. I actually found that funnier than anything else.
Yeah, no, and there are a lot of really subtle little, just I don't want to say character work, but little things like that
Yeah.
where yeah, you go, man, that's really sharp. But then it's juxtaposed with these like real head scratching moments. And yeah, unfortunately, Dana Hill, who plays Audrey Griswold, is yeah, there's like 2 or 3 times where characters make comments about her and her body. The
Yeah.
whole character arc is her
Someone
she
said something about
likes there's this whole character arc about her boyfriend, who she doesn't want to leave, who she's obsessed with, and she's afraid to get too fat, and then the second
yeah.
he breaks up with her via letter, she starts eating, and it's just like, man, this is not a flattering
Right.
like portrayal of a teenage girl, and the way the other characters treat her, like easily the most sort of unsettling kind of part of the
Yeah.
movie. And we're already talking about characters and performance. We'll continue.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Is it okay? Yeah. Well, because okay, yeah, I guess it is characters. Okay, that it's the I don't know his real name, but it's the blonde kid from uh Karate Kid, the bad guy, and
Yes,
he's
yes,
the
from
bad guy in
Cobra
all
Kai.
those
Yeah, William
movies, Cobra
Zabka.
Kai.
William
Yeah,
Zabka.
and he's just like he's just one of the great '80s, you know, young bad, the guys so he's great. He's great, but there's no way he would date Audrey, And what I mean by that is like she's supposed to be kind of like a little nerdy. I always, I mean, there's no doubt about it. And he's like, even in this movie, he's got the haircut, the earring, the sleeves rolled up. I mean, he's like he's a cool kid. You
I
know
mean,
what I
and
mean?
also again, he looks if I'm gonna
Like he's
believe,
like 10 years older than her.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yes,
If we're gonna
there's
believe they're
no
both
way.
if we're gonna believe they're both in high school,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean he's a senior, maybe got held back a year, and she's a freshman
yeah,
at the
yeah.
oldest. Yeah, it's
It's just
very
so
weird.
funny though. Yeah.
Let's maybe get into the Griswolds. We already talked about Dana Hill a little bit. Jason Lively is playing Rusty, and of course replacing um,
Hmm.
Help me out here. Who's
Anthony Michael Hall.
Anthony Michael Hall? Thank you, Sid. So sort of stepping up, and this would become sort of a staple of the movies where they replace the kids. But Anthony Michael Hall was set to reprise his role, and then went and did Weird Science. So
Oh, I
that
didn't
is
know that.
yes,
Nice.
that is why he was not in this. But of course, Beverly D'Angelo also coming back in. Is it Chevy Chase? Is that who that is? Is that who the is it? Yes, I kid, of
Yeah.
course.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
what were your thoughts on the
Not
Griswolds? I
Phil
mean, you can
Lord.
tell me maybe Rusty, go in whatever order you like, Sid. But yeah, break down the Griswolds for me.
Oh, I mean, Chevy Chase is great at Clark Griswold, and so is Beverly D'Angelo as Ellen. I again looking back on it, I was never impressed with the two kids, but they actually were fine. They did a good job. The girl, she actually is one of the probably the better. I mean, her character's a little annoying, but
Well, she's given some pretty shitty material.
exactly,
I mean,
exactly. But I think the actress did a good job
agreed.
with it. Yeah, and Rusty's fine too, man. I mean, he's um
I think he's pretty
he's
funny. He
yeah.
gets some laughs out of me. He really holds his own against the two parents, and I think that imagine you're stepping into the sequel of a really successful franchise,
Sure.
and you're not only now replacing a character, but easily replacing like one of the biggest actors of his age at the time. So I mean, I feel like this is a really big lift for Jason Lively, who plays Rusty. And yeah, I thought he again did everything and then some with the material. Really plays both at some points the geeky loser, but other times this suave, cool. I mean, like,
Right,
he
right.
really has a lot of range in this movie that you
Yeah.
can believe.
That was another thing. I guess being a PG-13 movie, it is funny. Like I'm personally not offended, but like they're eating dinner or they're eating at the that outside table and the couple across the way is making, or maybe it's not outside, doesn't matter. The couple across the way is making out. And I mean, and he says in front of his mom, right? What? He's grabbing her tit. And he's gonna pork her, dad. Don't pork. He's not gonna pork her, son. Like, wow, I don't know, man. Growing up, I would not be allowed to say that to my parents. But
Yeah, well, I think the Griswold definitely have some different
yeah,
rules
yeah.
in their house because yeah, I think
But I think it's more about it being PG-13 because I feel like, well, even though those aren't bad words, it's just like, yeah, I don't know. Nothing like I said really wrong with it. It just cracked me up.
yeah, no, it's an interesting dynamic, for sure. It kind of feels like a cast playing a family instead of a family being a family.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's funny while we're again kind of rounding out the kids. Rusty, of course, has a love interest that he meets later on in the film. That is famous musician Frank Zappa's daughter. Said
Oh, I didn't know that.
Moon Zappa, is that right?
Yeah, 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 Moon Unit.
Moon
That
Unit.
thing, I do believe that's her full name.
Yeah, well, a nice cameo from her. Well, before I get a score out of you again, let me I guess I should ask. You mentioned there were a few jokes that got you. What were some of
Yeah.
the jokes and the characters that delivered them?
Okay, my favorite has to be. I do like the Eric Idle gag, the guy on the bicycle,
Yes.
man on bicycle, right? And I remember that one's always kind of stood out for me. But this time watching it, which is really feels like the first full time I've actually seen it since maybe I was a kid, if you count that. And when he goes into that revolving door and Clark cuts in front and gets his foot, I couldn't stop laughing. I kept watching, and what I love about it is the sound, and which I know we'll talk about in the sound later, but it is they nail it, and he nails it, the scream, the timing. That's a great gag. And I also love the dance scene, which is interesting because I don't know. Did you ever see with Bill Murray, The Man Who Knew Too Little?
I'm not sure that I have. I'm not sure that I
Okay.
have.
I think it's a totally underrated movie. It's pretty funny. He gets mistaken for a spy, and so he kind of just bumbles through
Okay.
the movie.
Leave a like if you like Man Who Knew
Oh,
Too Little. Is that correct?
The Man Who Knew Too Little.
The Man Who Knew Too Little. Leave a like.
Yeah.
Leave a comment. Let me know if I should watch it.
But he does a dance scene with Russian dancers where he's kind of thrown into this dance, very similar to this. It's funny now knowing that this came way before that. But um yeah, so it starts off like what you think is gonna happen, but there's that one scene where all of a sudden Clark gets it. He gets a for a couple seconds, he gets a hold of that dance and he's right there with them. And it lasts like 2 seconds, and then of course he starts bopping heads. But man, that's another one of those things where I watched that probably 5 times, kept rewinding it,
Well, I
and
want
I don't know. I don't know if it has anything to do with, what, the type of leaves that grow around here in the jungle. But
to. Sid definitely, yeah, chows down on some eucalyptus, and yeah, gets gets where he needs to be. Look, I want to point out you mentioned the Eric Idle thing. There's a fun Easter egg. I don't know if you picked up on it, but of course Eric Idle involved in the Monty Python gang, and
yes.
is the famously is the knight that gets chopped up. And well, now I'm gonna botch the line specifically, but he uses the same line when he gets after he gets hit by the bike,
Yes.
referring to like
It's
I'll
just
walk
a
it off, or
it's
it's just
just
a
a flesh
flesh
wound.
wound. Yes,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's pretty funny.
that was a funny, yeah, little
Yeah.
Easter egg. Again,
Yeah.
before
Well,
shared universes or Easter eggs were even a thing.
and I have to say Mel Smith is in it. The manager of the hotel in London. He was the albino in The Princess Bride.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So that's the only thing I really have to bring to that.
Well,
But
no, and that role was originally going to be played by the gentleman who played Mr. Bean.
uh the albino or in European Vacation?
European Vacation, the movie we're discussing, Sid. The movie I did research on before this.
Maybe you just knew it. I know what a big Mr. Bean fan you are.
What? Yeah, such a big Mr. Bean fan. I can't remember the name of the actor.
Yeah.
He,
Rowan Atkins.
Rowan Atkins. Thank you. He was
Yeah.
going to play the bellhop, and then
Oh, okay.
for one reason or another, I do not remember why. That's the extent of my trivia knowledge on that one.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yes.
Yeah, he's great. And that guy, he just looks like a real scumbag, man. Just food all over his shirt.
I love that he opens the guest book and then just puts a slice of pizza on it, like on the guest book. Like it's just horrible. Well,
Yeah.
characters and performances, Sid. Put a slice of pizza on it. What number do you give it? 1 out of 10
I gave it a 10 out of 10.
for characters and performances. 10 out
Yeah.
of 10 locked
Yeah.
in. That's incredible, Sid. You definitely had some eucalyptus in your system. Visual storytelling.
You got the Germans. Oh, let me say one more. The chef putting the flag in the poured out food. I mean, some of the guys I got, they're in there for 2 seconds and they're so subtle. Their acting is so perfect. So funny, man. More like funnier than I think the jokes are meant to be. I mean, the jokes are one thing, but then you just find the actors finding, like you said, giving shit and finding something with it or whatever.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed the vacation. Well, visual storytelling. Then now I'm like really interested to hear what you gave visual storytelling, because my visual storytelling was definitely scores higher than the characters and performances, and you can't get higher than a 10.
You
So
can't.
I'll just ask you, what were your thoughts on the visual storytelling?
I have nothing really to say about the visual storytelling other than it just did everything it needed to do as far as that movie went.
Yeah, it's pretty paint by numbers. I mean, there are brief little moments. There's a moment where when they go to it's it's sort of implied that they've been to a lot of museums, and there's just this really kind of erratic sort of montage of famous paintings just sort of flashing. They're full screen though. So I don't know. I appreciated that, but that lasts all of 15 seconds. Similarly at the end, the credits roll over this like super pro America, like,
Yeah.
which was funny. Like I thought,
Yeah.
definitely got a laugh out of me. Um but yeah, I actually never really noticed from this time period a lot of movies that do like exterior plane shots poorly. this was not a good. There's a scene, there's a shot of their plane flying, and it is just really bad, like key.
Oh, okay.
And it was clearly maybe they were exploring some new technology, but there is a hard black line around that plane
Oh,
in the
oh, oh, oh,
blue
yeah, yeah,
sky.
yeah.
And I was like,
That's funny.
I was pretty surprised they couldn't get some like stock footage or something, or even get like a little model plane or something to shoot because it looked noticeably bad. But it was an SD era, let's face it. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, no, visual storytelling. I mean, I don't have a ton of thoughts myself. It's obviously a pretty paint by numbers movie. It's clearly made by professionals. You know, there is some nudity in it, which might come as a surprise to some watching a PG-13 movie. So, I mentioned in my open, I feel like this is a movie that kind of maybe is trying to appeal to the whole family, assuming they'll go. But specifically from a visual storytelling standpoint, it's just so neutral. I don't think it's going to connect with really anybody. You know, the visual gags aren't over the top enough. Again, the PG-13 maybe, you know, raunchy
I'd
side
watch
of
it again. I'd watch it again for the nudity.
it. All
I
right, well,
mean,
we found our audience. Yeah.
yeah. No, no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, that I was like, I must have seen it grow on TV whenever I did see pieces of it because I never knew that was there.
Let me ask you then, 1 out of 10, Sid, visual storytelling.
I mean, I actually gave it a 9 out of 10 because, again, it's not that I felt like it did anything wrong, which maybe would get a 10 out of 10, but it also didn't do anything to really impress me either. So I give it
Totally.
a 9 out of 10.
The 9 is officially locked in, Sid. That brings us to use of sound. This movie definitely plays with the soundtrack. It's got goofy sound, kind of cartoonish sounds. Obviously, the movie opens with this sort of animated game show open that has its own kind of theme
The theme song, yeah.
to it. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like the use of sound was a real inspired area of the film. I'm curious, what were some standouts to you?
The the sound effects or the Foley, to me, it was so bad on some of the things like the grill fire blowing up, the dishes breaking or chewing gum, and it just seemed like what like it sounds so bad. Who said who gave it a pass? But after that, it didn't jump out at me as much. I didn't really. It wasn't an issue for me as much. And then the revolving doors thing. That's the sound of that really.
Run you back.
Just yeah, took a knocked the other thing out. But the soundtrack is great. There's like 5 good songs in there. Of course, Holiday Road. But I thought they did a good job of using like contemporary music that doesn't seem like dated when you watch it or obvious.
And it
You
very much feels in line with what the first film did and the other films would
hmm
do. Like it feels like even when the movie opens, it just there's I don't know, there's just a sound to it that feels very familiar. Even again, if it's your first time watching this film, or if it's your first time being introduced to the film, having watched others in the franchise. Yeah, now I want to call attention. You had mentioned some of the sound effects being bad in talking about the bubble gum. There's a scene where they're on the train and they're all kind of getting on each other's nerves. Is that the scene you're referring to where, mom is sort of rustling the paper, dad is sort of flicking this light switch, Russ is sort of, and then the youngest or the sister is popping this bubble gum. Is that the scene?
Yeah, yeah, that's the gum scene. Yeah, she's popping in, and it just doesn't. It just sounds like a cartoon pop, and
Yeah.
it just seemed like wow, that it's a big movie.
But I feel like I that's why I bring it up because I do think
Oh,
that maybe was intentional. Like I feel like
yeah,
because
still don't like it.
no, fair enough. Uh,
Yeah, no, I hear you though.
but yeah, because even dad flicking the light switch, like that sound effect is super amplified.
Yeah,
Russ kind of listening to his music. I mean, I don't know anybody who would listen to music like that, and
right.
even mom is just flicking the newspaper, and it's like, well, how would you even read the newspaper if you were just flicking it like that? So it did seem like this weird, like almost like they were trying to create jazz out of annoying each other, or the filmmakers were. I definitely didn't think it was a
Was
very
Al eating some eucalyptus?
No, look, Al was effectively annoyed, so I thought it worked. And
Yeah, yeah, okay.
in
Well,
doing
they,
what to do, yeah.
yeah. No, the fight when he did the barbecue, like again, that's also when the beginning where they're set. You see the joke coming a mile away, where everyone's pouring lighter fluid on it.
Yeah.
But then it's like there's no payoff. It's this little flame and a little sound as it kind of blurs out to something else. Like again, it just felt like we need to just fill time. We need to fill time until we can get to Europe.
Luckily, we don't have to fill any time.
No.
What would you give the use of sound, Sid?
Um, other than the Foley that I mentioned, and because of the soundtrack and and because of the
I want to know
involving
how many
more.
points
10. I gave it a 10 out of 10.
because of the crunch.
Because of the crunch and because of the soundtrack. Because of the songs in it.
Wow, all right.
It's
So
like
go,
yeah, yeah,
go-
yeah. And you know what? And like during the chase, there's appropriate chase music when the cars are driving. There's not a lot of music where there shouldn't be that's annoying or distracting. They didn't feel like they had to fill in. So yeah, 10 out of 10.
Look, Sid, you need not defend yourself to the end. I'm just surprised because it seemed like you had a couple fair criticisms in there. So I'm just surprised I got a perfect.
Yeah, I know, I
But
know. And I probably honestly, I probably should give it a 9 out of 10 for that. Honestly, I really should because I really can't stand that. I must have been in a very, very generous mood.
that's what I'm thinking because you
Yeah.
took issue
I
with.
would, you know what? I am going to give it I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10.
I talked you
If
down. All right.
you did.
There you go. All
It
right.
did. It probably would have been an 8 out of 10 if it wasn't if it wasn't for that door.
Well, I'll be fine. I'll be sure to isolate that
Yeah.
sound. That sound.
I would love I love the idea of making or breaking a movie on just liking one scene.
One sound even. Yeah.
Yeah, or sound, yeah.
Ugh.
Like I love that movie. Like you like that movie? I thought that movie was crap. Like yeah, but remember that sound 45 minutes in?
Hey, look, as long as it was worth it for you, that's all that matters.
Right. Thanks.
That's I'm glad. I'm just happy that you just, here's a spoiler. We don't even have your score for theme, and you've already graded this film considerably higher than my entire score. So
Oh, that's so funny.
but that brings us
That's my lowest. Anyways, coming up.
well, theme, I'm not really surprised. I isolated a few themes in this. Exploration, I thought, was a theme. Discomfort, maybe, is the most prominent theme. Separation, family, obviously, to some extent. But I don't think this movie is attempting to really explore any themes. It's just trying to exploit the success of the first film. And I'm sure they just tried to put a plot together that was within the budget and they could stretch out to 90 minutes because that is my favorite part of this movie. It is just
Yeah.
it doesn't even hit 90 minutes if you don't watch the credits. I mean, it's like it is a breezy movie. So
Most of what I take away, especially since it's a Griswold movie, is just, pretty much your family with your family. You're gonna drive each other to the brink, but you're always gonna come back and I guess, I mean, what would you say? Family is everything, or with family you can get through anything, and so that's one theme. I mean, especially I feel like, well, no, yeah, well, and then there's, I guess, what is there? It's nice to visit, but it's nice to come home. Is that whatever they say?
yeah, no, that's a good point. There's definitely, I think, that vacation theme of, yeah, a good vacation is you're right. You've got great memories, but you're ready to come home. You're ready to get
Right.
back to life. And I think this it definitely kind of echoes that towards the
Yeah,
land.
well, we'll get back to the good old U.S. of A. Where, I'm trying to think, like, I think at a time, though, that was just kind of like maybe, wow, yeah, America really is a great place, what a nice, like, I mean, is that what
You
the
think
average
that was
person
sincere
would
though? Because
think?
I couldn't.
I don't know. I just thought because of the time, it must have been.
But that's what I almost wonder is, I mean, again, is there a little, are they lampooning this sort of peak Reagan era, like, oh,
Maybe.
rah, America? And again, it doesn't
That's
seem like a
cool. I didn't know that. I mean, sorry.
no, I'm just saying, I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying it
Yeah.
doesn't seem like a particularly political or liberal movie by any stretch, but it does. I mean, having said that, it does present the Americans as absolute buffoons abroad.
Yes. Yeah.
So it does kind of seem like it, you in some universe you could see how this movie was maybe even made by foreigners or something, you know.
Well, I thought that almost because yeah, they definitely like yeah, are making fun of themselves the whole time, and I always thought like I had this thought while I'm watching it, like it'd be funny if like they play this in schools in Europe for everyone, you know, and
Right.
be like, yeah,
This is where McDonald's comes from. Yeah.
right. What jokes like you wouldn't even they wouldn't even be considered today, and I'm talking specifically about the airplane cockpit, you know.
Oh yeah, of course.
I always forget though, but yeah, pre 9/11, it's like, and that's not even like far fetched. It's like, no, you probably could go in that door.
Yeah, for those who maybe haven't seen the film, Clark has to go to the bathroom, and both lavatories are occupied, and for some reason he thinks the cockpit is a third lavatory, and he just sort of muscles his way in, which almost crashes the plane, and it's just
Yeah,
it's like, oh, ha ha, funny, isn't it funny? You could just
yeah,
laugh at that idea, and it didn't bring to mind the most horrible atrocity in
horrible, right? Yeah,
modern our modern culture.
it didn't take yeah the movie like, well, no way, that door would be triple locked and there'd be a marshal right there.
Right. Yeah, in the contemporary version, he's getting tackled and shit in his pants.
Yeah,
It's the joke. Yeah.
that's so funny.
Well, Sid, then I guess I should ask you, perhaps to land this plane and give me a theme, 1 out of 10. I gotta know. I mean, the fact that this movie almost earned 2 10s from you has kind of blown my mind. But there's still 2 9s. I mean, this is amazing to me. So I gotta know, what did the themes get? 1 out of 10.
I gave it a 6 out of 10.
Okay, wow. That's amazing. 6 out of 10. I say it's amazing. You'll understand why shortly.
Sure. I stand. You know what? I'm looking. I stand by 9 out of 10. I stand by that one. I'm glad I knocked it down. But yeah, hey
Yeah,
man.
well, I'll run it back for the listeners, of course. You gave the plot an 8, the characters and performances a 10 out of 10, the visual storytelling a 9, the use of sound a 9, and the themes a 6. That's a total of 84. I mean, that is an A. You could potentially give it an A minus. I don't know, Sid. What do you want to lock in for the?
Well, I gave it a B. I mean, that's what I felt like. I considered it a B movie.
Okay.
Not yeah, that grade. But
Would you give it a B plus?
I'd give it a yeah. I'd give it yeah. You can. I mean, you said it's an A minus. Let's give it a B plus. Let's give it a B plus.
The B plus is locked in forever. It's official. It can't be
Yeah,
changed. Let that sink in. Um,
some concrete.
that's right. Like the spelling of the Griswold name. Um, all right. The plot to your 8, I gave it a 4. I really did take issue with the last kind of 10 minutes of the film. I didn't
Mm,
mind it becoming a heist. I just thought it should be a funny heist.
hmm
I didn't really, it seemed like a studio note or something. It just seemed really weird. Characters and performances to your 10, I gave them a 5. I feel like this movie is definitely kind of a victim of the other movies in the franchise. I feel like the characters in this movie are fine. The performances are definitely better than the characters are, but there is just some weird stuff that happens in this movie that like kind of prevents it from me being able to give it like a full thumbs up. So I just am kind of neutral in the middle with the characters and performances. Visual storytelling, I gave it a 7 to your 9 because again, can't really give it super high points, but it isn't offensive by any means visually. I thought it was a well-made film, well edited, great production design and locations and everything. So gave it a 7. Use of sound, I gave it a 6 to your 9. Again, I felt like it was good, not great. It was a bit distracting at times. We kind of talked about that. But I thought it was a positive. And then the theme to your 6, I also gave it a 6. We're totally in agreement there. So for me, that's a 56 out of 100.
Hmm.
So I guess that's a C. That's like a C. I could give it
Yeah.
like a C
I mean,
plus.
honestly, I know it's weird. Like yeah, it really is a C movie. It's a C movie. I give it a B, maybe because I found things I liked about it better, or things that I wasn't expecting to find funny anymore or whatever. But yeah, I mean, when you compare it to the other movies and to a comedy and the overall, it's that's a fair grade as a C. I mean, you're like you said, it's sandwiched between Vacation and Christmas Vacation. Like it does, it's a big shoes to fill.
Yeah, and then even on that note, I mean, if I said, "Hey, you're gonna watch all four," I have a feeling you're probably gonna put Vegas Vacation on before this one. I can't think of like I've seen Christmas Vacation. I watched that with my folks growing up. I had seen that with my in-laws back when that was a thing. Back
Hmm.
kids had in-laws, and yeah, it's just a movie that again everybody seems to just sort of appreciate and know things
Yeah.
from. This is a movie that I think is super forgettable. I just don't. I
Oh yeah.
can enjoy
No, I
it, but
agree.
I don't
Yeah.
know that anybody's like quoting European Vacation within their friend group or something.
Right. But
Yeah,
that's also more to what I mean about the Temple of Doom is because the first one is it's a classic Vacation, right? I mean, Raiders of the Lost Ark. What? Nothing to really argue. And then you got the second one, but then the third one, like, how does the third one come back and for me and a lot of people, but I know not everyone, like, is better than the first, and that's how I feel Christmas Vacation and
European.
Last Crusade.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. I love the third ones in those.
Well, Sid, then how about we do this? Because National Lampoon's European Vacation, I have a feeling is going to be maybe the lowest graded
Yeah.
review on today's show. I'm going to break some news. How about this?
Okay. Okay.
Breaking news music. Hit the breaking news. Thank you. Episode 30, Real Talk. That's the last episode of the season. For listeners who haven't figured it out yet, Episode 10, Franchise Foundation. Episode 20, we talk about sequels. Episode 30, we talk about trilogies. The third movie in the trilogy. Sid, will you come on episode 30? Can I book you and lock you in now to review The Last Crusade on episode 30 of Real Talk to finish the season?
I almost fell off my branch. Yeah, definitely. I would love to. That's a great movie. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I think of it yet. You'll have to tune in.
That's right. Sid's completely ambiguous until
Yeah.
episode 30, at least with regards to the Temple of Doom. On all other things, his takes are very clear. But Sid, thank you as always for coming. You enjoyed the film, and I hope maybe you and I can travel Europe together someday.
Yeah, man. Hey, that sounds like a great place, especially if we go to Germany. Nah,
I'm just gonna end it with you saying, especially if we go to Germany.
Before we jump into the next review, I just wanted to thank you for listening this far, and I ask that you leave a like if you're enjoying the show. And let us know what movies you'd like to hear us score on Real Talk. We're almost certainly on your favorite social media platform, so search Al the Movie Lion wherever you scroll.
Clueless takes place in a time when only the coolest kids had cell phones the sizes of a kilo of Coke, but as many zeitgeist props as you'll find in the movie. At its core, this Amy Heckerling film is a timeless story of the adolescent arc, but unlike her 1982 classic Fast Times at Ridgemont High, this high school comedy is for the girls. And what a collection of ladies clueless assembles, from Stacey Dash, who every guy in my high school crushed on, to Alicia Silverstone, holding down the lead role, and the late Brittany Murphy, who is as lovable as she is relatable. Many of the circles and situations Clueless explores aren't the average Americans, but by setting the film in the upper class hills of Hollywood, it's far easier to laugh at the characters while simultaneously connecting to them. The film is a perfect recreation of the teenage girl experience, as it's sweet, manipulative in the most well-intentioned way, full of surprises, and consistently thoughtful, although communicated in a hyper-specific way. What I love most about this movie is its focus on building a lead character who is a hero because she loves spreading joy. A cheesy premise, no doubt, but when filtered through the cynical lens of the mid-90s, the kindness of Clueless feels like a rare achievement. No, this is not a Noxzema commercial, but it is a reunion because Laurie Schmone, who herself is a director, is coming to the jungle for the first time, and I haven't seen her in years. Laurie, welcome, and can I ask what software you used to pick out your outfit today?
I'm thrilled to be here in the jungle with you. Thank you so much for having me. Still have 4 to pick out my outfit. Wow, was not expecting that question. I feel like that would have really helped me in high school if I had that.
We've worked together and known each other for many years, Lori, so it's wonderful to have you here in the jungle. And I do want to ask you kind of out of the gate, when is the first time you saw Clueless?
Honestly, I cannot remember the first time I saw Clueless, but I know I've seen it multiple times. When you mentioned Clueless and you're like, "Hey, do you want to come on and review Clueless?" I was like, hell fucking yeah, I do. Like, let's go. Such a good movie. And I had such a blast watching it on the plane. I'm pretty sure the guy next to me was like, why is she watching Clueless when there's all of these other movies that she could watch? And I was like, no, this is a classic.
Eyes ahead, pal.
Yeah,
No questions over here.
exactly.
And this is my armrest. And then you elbowed him. No, I love that. Look,
Probably.
it's probably something similar to that. I remember when Clueless came out very distinctly because it had a really big impact. It had a TV show that aired like within a year or so of the movie coming out. I remember that more because maybe it was part of TGIF or something. Some of the people from the movie were in the cast. Amy Heckerling herself directed, I think, 4 episodes of that. I think I probably didn't see Clueless until I was in college. And I was like, whoa, this movie is really, really funny. Like, it really kind of...
It's really funny.
The 90s, I feel like it's Clueless. Early 2000s, and the aughts, if you will, is like a Mean Girls. Dare I say the 20 teens is like a Lady Bird. I'm way too old at that point to be telling people what the 20 teens like teenage girl movie is. All of that said, this is your first time here, and I'm very happy that you're here. We've got a fun game planned.
All right.
First, we're going to talk about the plot of Clueless. You were a director, so you know a thing or two about plot, arc, moving things down the timeline.
This is going to sound actually ridiculous. Listen, I got really caught up in them being like step siblings. First, I was like, do they share the same dad? Like, this is so weird. I swear to God, I thought this. Of course I did. The step family plot like threw me a little bit, but I get it now. And I was just like confused because I thought they were related. And I was like, this is creepy and incestuous, but it's not. It's actually not. That's on me. This has nothing to do with that. That is my own personal issue.
But it does walk that tightrope. Is there another relationship? Like, is there another way they could have introduced the Paul Rudd character? Because I get that there needs to be enough of a barrier that she wouldn't really consider him, which I guess being a step sibling would be that. Look, it was something I thought about a lot too. I'm like, this is really walking a Star Wars like tightrope.
No, I mean, that's what I got. That's what I got on the plot. In terms of like the actual plot, I think it's great. I do feel like it kind of started to like lose me a little bit towards the end. But it's such an incredible movie, incredible film. I feel like one thing that I kept coming back to throughout was how funny it was. Like the dialogue is just hilarious. Like I feel like I could watch this movie so many times and still not like realize all of the amazing quotes that are in there. Like I almost want to just like watch it and like write them down because it is so funny. But I don't know. I mean, what did you think of the plot?
I think the plot kind of almost breaks down in 4 sections. You have this beginning section, which is like an introduction, and it's where Alicia Silverstone's Cher is setting up the 2 teachers. And then the second chapter is sort of her giving Brittany Murphy, her character, a makeover. Mm-hmm. The third chapter is sort of her crushing on a guy who turns out to be also crushing on guys. And then the fourth chapter, which is, I mean, you could call the third act of the movie. It definitely contains the entire third act, is her realizing she likes Paul Rudd's character, Josh, as he is known. So what I think is interesting is, at its core, the love story that is between Cher and Josh isn't interesting enough to carry a whole movie, but they really kind of just leave it to the end. I'm totally there with you. By the time we get to that point, she realizes it's cute, but the character that's really been established kind of has to evolve in a way at that point, which is not as fun and interesting. And it is relatively predictable at that point, which, come on, almost every coming of age story is. So I appreciate the plot. I think it's sort of aware of its shortcomings, and I will say, like, it's a victim of its own success, because, like, I love how this movie starts where they're setting up the teachers. I just thought it was funny and it was really sweet. I don't know any teen movie that has characters trying to set up their teachers in a really genuine way. So I thought it was a really sweet way to kick off the movie. But by the end, yeah, it's kind of predictable and a little bit boring, and ends on them kissing, is what it is. It's a way to end the movie.
Yeah, it's like I feel like 3/4 of the way through, I just started to like the first 3/4 of the movie. I loved. Like it's like I was the whole time. I'm into it. I'm entertained. And to your point, I don't know if it's because it kind of falls into the typical kind of like teen drama tropes, but I think done in a very tasteful way. I don't know if that's where I started to like fall off. But again, the whole stepbrother thing.
To clear for anybody who isn't interested, so we have Cher's dad, who is played by the wonderful Dan Hedaya, or AKA Mel Horowitz. Very briefly, 5 years ago, he was married to the mother of Josh. So that is the connection. Josh is like maybe 2 years older than her. So they are step siblings. And by the end, I was really thinking, like, yeah, how do you explain this to your kids? How'd you meet your husband? Oh, he was my stepbrother.
Right.
And he used to come over and help my dad. And that's why I just wonder, could he have been like a legal assistant? Could it just been something as simple as Josh sees her at the beginning and immediately dad is like, if you even blink at her, you're fired, and I'll make sure you never work in this town. And so he's just like, nope. And then she, who really genuinely respects her dad, kind of doesn't want to like this guy because he's purposefully trying to turn her off because he doesn't want to get in trouble. Like, I don't know. I think there's something cute and interesting there that doesn't have any incestual, sort of things.
And it's not really incestuous because they're not related, but I think I was just thrown. Like I didn't know that at first. Like, and I don't know if I missed something, but now I know and I'm over it and it's all good.
I will ask you then, as is tradition, 1 out of 10, we'll ask you how over it you are.
Albert, I would give the plot 6.75.
Oh my God, I love it. Rare do we have a guest on their first episode, not only their first score, break out the quarter decimals.
I mean, is that crazy?
It's exciting. It's really, I think everybody
thrilling.
just woke up. They just leaned in and turned up the dial.
I feel like that was a little harsh, but I'm just going to go with it because I already said it. Yeah, but I do think that perhaps I'm being a little harsh for sure on it.
I will raise your exciting decimal a tease for the end. Our score is like a sneeze off. It's really, I don't think it's that harsh. Let me just put it that way. It's very simple.
Albert says I have to wait. So I have to wait to hear the score, everyone.
Hey, look, it's a way to build tension and drama. You got to keep these kids these days listening. Our average listener is about 8.5 years old, and they have very short attention spans. So anyhow, that brings us to characters and performances. We have Brittany Murphy, we have Alicia Silverstone, we have Stacey Dash, Paul Rudd, Donald Faison, who, again, many people probably know from Scrubs as Turk. I mentioned Dan Hedaya earlier. We have Wallace Shaw, amongst many others, including her Amy Heckerling herself, who makes a little cameo at the end in the wedding scene. I believe she's the maid of honor. This has probably got to be peak Alicia Silverstone, who herself was just in Begonia, which came out in 2025, one of the more heralded movies. She's sort of unrecognizable in it. She was obviously once Batgirl, had a pretty crazy career, but Clueless, I mean, am I wrong, Lori? Kind of her most well-known work.
Yeah, incredible characters and performances, both. I love how straight they play the performances. That's exactly how they are, but it's obvious, and that's what makes it so funny. Fantastic. I think it's one of my favorite parts about the movie. Their performances are like over dramatic, but supposed to be. Yeah, it's just funny, and it's kind of like also satire at its finest. I love it. I mean, I don't want to give my score away quite yet. I also think Cher has an interesting character arc too, right? Because she kind of starts off as this like, optimistic, happy-go-lucky, like nothing can get her down teenage girl, which first of all, like, how did she get that way? I guess she lives in Beverly Hills, California, and is very rich and has money and has a computer telling her what to wear each day. So maybe if I had that as a teenager, I would be the same way. But her character, moving from like that character to then at the end, I feel like just kind of trying to like be a better person, right? Like at the beginning, she set up the couple for her own interests, right? She set up the teachers because it was for selfish reasons. And then I feel like by the end, you see her character arc kind of just come into this, like, she's not just doing it for her. She's doing it to really like be a better person and help other people. So I feel like that's a pretty kind of cool character arc for her.
Because especially her dad was so rugged and rough around the edges, and she didn't have a mom, she had sort of had this like very nurturing parental nature. And even her friend sort of makes fun of her at one point for, you know, or no, I think it's Josh says like, oh, you don't have a mom, so you're sort of suffocating this girl trying to raise her. And what I saw it as, it's always obviously easier to solve other people's problems, to help them with their stuff, especially when you're living on cloud nine. But when you have your own emotions that you then have to deal with, which is her realizing, oh gosh, I like Josh, I like a person, how do I deal with that? That can be the most sort of difficult thing to deal with. I love the way that's expressed through kindness, because the kindness at the beginning of the movie is almost in a way this selfish kind of kindness, whereas the kindness at the end is this very like pure attempt to be herself, which pays off. Spoiler.
Yep.
She and Josh, they get together.
What?
Yeah, I know. Sorry. Oh, did you not get to the end? Sorry. Well, anyway, we will
I had 5 minutes left.
It's pretty good. Yeah, but all that said, well, let me ask you, Brittany Murphy, what did you think of the late Brittany Murphy? It's always fun when we get, we reviewed 8 Mile earlier this season, which has a fun key Brittany Murphy role, and I kind of forgot she was in this.
I thought she did a great job. Her character was just kind of weird and quirky, and she did a great job like playing her and almost making me a little like uncomfortable at times, where you're just like, you know, she's just a little like offbeat in a great way. But I thought Ty was an interesting character, and I'm trying to remember how it ends with them. She gets with the skateboarder and she apologizes to Cher at some point. They kind of like make amends at the end, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's interesting because she's sort of mocked by one group of girls right out of the gate, who are kind of led by the villain, if you want to call her that, even though this movie is really light on drama. And, you know, it's, but she's sort of immediately accepted by our 2 lead female characters. So yeah, she's definitely this vehicle for, again, I think most of the viewers who are just normal, everyday going folk who were doing coke when they were 15, which is something Ty established, which I was like, wow, that is
yeah,
where she's from in the Midwest.
Right. She was living for sure.
I wanna say now, again, you're a director. Sometimes you have to tell actors to get in a certain headspace. We're gonna flip it on you a little bit because we have a game that I want to play. And so I need you to get into the headspace of 15, 16, maybe 17-year-old Lori. You don't necessarily have to be in the Hollywood Hills for this, but we're going to play this game. And what it is, the game is called As If. And I'm going to ask you a question, basically a yes or no question, or in this scenario, a yes or as if question. Does that make sense? Are you ready? Are you
yes,
locked in?
I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm ready. Let's go.
Here we go. First ever edition of As If. If you got a bad grade, would you try and unalive yourself out the classroom window? Yes or as if?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Absolutely, I will repeat that.
repeat, please.
If you got a bad grade, would you try and unalive yourself out the classroom window? That happens in this movie, ladies and gentlemen. I would not.
As if.
Okay, good. That's the right answer. Would you eat a sandwich if it was just turkey with a slap of mayo on some white bread?
As if.
Yeah. Paul Rudd makes the worst sandwich in the history of sandwiches.
It looks disgusting. It looks so gross.
He didn't even put the mayo on the bread. He put it on the turkey like an asshole.
No,
Anyway,
thank you. No,
yeah,
thank you. As if, yeah.
dude, you're doing
Mm.
great, Lori. All right. Next up, would you try to find meaning in a Pauly Shore movie?
Mm. Yes.
Wow. All right. Look at that. Encino Man. If we ever review it, I'll have you on.
Great.
We can dive in. All right. Up next, do you pronounce Spartacus Sporadicus?
As if, Albert.
I
But
love
also
it.
maybe yes.
Yeah. I mean, look, we've all done it. Sporadicus is maybe a better name, especially because we know how non-committal Spartacus was. Anyhow, would you cry if someone called you a young virgin who couldn't drive? Remember, 16-year-olds.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
It was harsh. It was harsh. Last one, and I think I know what this might be. If your stepbrother was Paul Rudd, would you date him?
Yes.
Okay, I thought that was gonna get an as if based on some earlier criticism. Lori, congratulations. You won the
Wow.
first edition of
That
As If.
was fun.
That's so
I mean,
ridiculous.
Paul Rudd is cute.
Hey, I'm
He's
not
cute.
arguing.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
And I'm pretty sure Clueless
Absolutely.
1995 stars Paul Rudd's original nose. Hey, I'm here all week. No, I'm just kidding. He looks great. I don't know if he's had work done. But I did pay to see Anaconda, and I'm still pissed about it. Regardless, I'm going to ask you 1 out of 10. What do you give this? Characters and performances in Clueless.
8.5.
8.5.
Mhm.
Locked in. That brings us to visual storytelling. I'm going to tell you, Laura, there's really only one shot in the whole movie that I even remember that kind of stands out to me. When the kids at the end, when the step siblings are sitting and kind of revealing their love for each other and they end up smooching, staircase, this sort of double,
Mhm.
beautiful marble staircase, they're sort of positioned right in the middle of, and we're in and around the staircase and the foyer at various points in the movie. So it's not really a new location, so to speak, but the way they shoot it is completely unique to that scene. It definitely elevates what, again, I think we've talked about earlier, and the plot being a little predictable, and it really was kind of romantic and regal and really beautiful in a setting we were familiar with. So that's really kind of the only flowers, if you will, that I have to give it from a visual storytelling.
I felt like the visual storytelling was what it needed to be. I think there were some interesting camera moves throughout, a couple, like I felt like the shot of the girls at the tennis court where the camera I feel like kind of like pans across them like that. I just is fun.
Yeah.
I love that. Some of the way that they introduce the blocking with our characters, like the positioning, the blocking and like the positioning of the characters, I just felt like it was done well. To your point, I think the visuals, I think it was what it needed to be. And I think if it was anything else, I think it would have been like a little too try hard, or, just not fit the, hey, it was a nice burp.
Thanks. I tried so hard to mute it and do everything I could. I may or may not have inhaled 2 slap burgers that came very late, right before we started recording. So,
I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself.
no, thank you. This is what you're here for, ladies. Or here for, Lori, to keep us honest.
Listen, Albert, the jungle is alive. Yeah, so that's what I think. I think that there were some interesting like uses of the way that the camera moves, but in a way that advances the story, like not in a way that distracts from it. And I think that's part of the point. And I think it works really well.
Especially at the beginning of the movie, there's a really pronounced use of colors and pinks and things like that. Whereas towards the end of the movie, again, it's very grounded, much more neutral, if not kind of black and white. And so it's sort of interesting for a love story to kind of go almost in the opposite direction, where it starts out hyper colorful and by the end it's less saturated.
I did not pick up on that. But that's interesting.
Well, and Heckerling, again, she did Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and it's It's 1982, and it's very much, again, a time capsule movie where the fashions and the music and everything. But that's rated R. It goes a lot harder in the paint. This again does feel a lot more stylized, and I think because it is through the female lens and it's about a female lead specifically, I don't know, there's just a lot more sort of sensitivity to it.
I did not notice how, as the movie goes on, it kind of gets a little bit less saturated. But yeah, I mean, at the beginning, it kind of hits you over the head with it, where it's just like so many colors, it's so bright. It makes me happy when I'm watching it. I'm like, this is so joyful. Um, but yeah, that's interesting how you point out that the end is a little bit more grounded. But I mean, across the board, I just think that the art direction, the production design, even the costume design is like 10 out of 10. And like it's so 90s too, and there's that nostalgia that I personally love. I mean, if I could have a landline in my kitchen right now, like that's all I want is for us to be doing this on a landline.
Would you go?
Long cord
Yeah.
that I have to like, yeah, drag across like the kitchen floor.
To
Like
whip
that's
the
all I
dog
want.
with when they're doing something wrong. Yeah.
I loved just the kind of 90s nostalgia of it as well.
It's so fun. And there's a part of me that wonders, is there like a 1997, 1998 Barbie movie where Amy Heckerling is directing like a Jamie Priestley is Barbie, and what would that look like? Because I feel like there's so many elements in this movie that really do remind me of kind of Barbie and Barbie world, because it's so saturated and pink, and it is this sort of dream come true of this girl who has like unlimited money, kind of just can go shopping and do whatever she wants. There is one little thing I thought was funny. Just if people watch this, especially after this, keep an eye out. There's a scene, this I don't think is funny, but Brittany Murphy's character is kind of dangled over the side in this mall and by these jerks. And afterwards, they're talking about it at school. And there's this extra, and he just has like one line. I don't even remember what the line is. It's very stupid. He's like, "Hey, you go see whatever." Before he speaks, he is mouthing everyone else's lines, and it was so distracting to me because I'm like, is he saying Brittany Murphy's lines? And then Alicia Silverstone, and he starts saying her lines too. And then he finally says his line, and after he says his line, he doesn't have anything else to say, so he doesn't read anyone's lines anymore. But it was very funny because it's just the three of them on camera together, and the whole time he looks like he's doing badge ventriloquism or something.
I did not notice that. Now I have to go back and.
That brings us to use of sound. Laura, you already mentioned that, again, this is very much a 90s thing. I really love the soundtrack for this movie. It was really, really fun. There's so many bangers in there. But as well as just the world that they're in, the mall they visit, the high school, it's not quite cartoonish, but just like the colors in the movie, I feel like the sound design is turned up. There's a sequence where Stacey Dash is trying to drive and the cars are going around, like a motorcycle gang is going around her, and it's just like the sounds, it's so immersive. I don't know.
Or even like when we see the mall for the first time and we hear this like beautiful, like dramatic orchestral music playing
Like
as we like see the mall, and it's just like, oh, and yeah, I love that. It plays into the whole movie. Or even like when Cher just like is walking down the stairs. I don't know. It really adds to the storytelling and elevates, I think, throughout.
There's a whimsy to it, but it is just subtle enough, and there's enough like comedic stuff to balance it out that it doesn't ever feel too cheesy and just sort of lost.
That song that the band plays.
Yeah,
Can
by
we,
the
like,
way, that's
jam
the
to it?
Mighty Mighty Boss Tones, I believe, is the band. But
Let's have a little
a little break here.
like a little jam sesh, because I really love that part. Where did you go? Oh, where'd you go? The mighty 10, number 10. Oh, there it is.
I'll stand by, everybody. Hold before I get demonetized. All right, I'm hovering over the triangle. You let me know when to hit.
Let's play it. Ready?
All right, 3, 2, 1. I think
See,
Lori.
it's a banger.
No, it's great.
But I feel like the movie version is like more intense
Sure.
because they're like playing it live. So it's like you just like,
Oh yeah.
oh, maybe this is the part.
Oh.
Where did you go? They're running in the street now. Did you go? Yeah, this is it. Where did you go? Where did you go?
All right, Lori.
Where did you go? All right, that's it. All right, we can call it.
Yeah, no. We've never in the history of Real Talk, if we had a dance break, that was incredible. I'm reinvigorated. What can I say?
Good. Good.
I hope this doesn't influence your score for the use of sound. I've got to get one out of you, 1 out of 10, and I feel like it might be grading on a curve now.
We're gonna go. I don't know. We're gonna go with 7.5.
Wow, 7.5. All right, so I thought maybe again it would get higher because of the dancing, but that's okay. There's no wrong answers.
I get it.
That brings us to themes. I felt like there were a couple that were pretty obvious. I mean, relationships are obviously one theme. Love is a theme, but I also just thought identity, both sort of personal and social.
Can you talk a little bit more about identity? Because I think that's interesting.
Yeah, well, I think at the beginning of the movie, again, she's very much sees herself as this sort of almost like omnipotent motherly character to her father, to her teachers, to her friends, to almost everyone. And so her sense of identity is sort of defined by, for lack of a better way of putting it, what she can give other people. And when she falls in love, she has to deal with what she wants to give herself and what she wants to give someone else of herself. The personal identity that she has to come to terms with is this sort of departure from the social identity that she gets confidence from, if that makes sense. Both represent like a source of confidence. And I think at the beginning of the movie, she's extremely confident in her ability to, again, set up teachers and things like that. But by the end of the film, it's not that confidence is wanes. It's just transitioned and evolved into more of like again, a confidence from self, a confidence because she's willing to love someone and willing to be with that person and give of herself. So yeah, that's sort of what I mean by a kind of identity. And I think we all have to go through that in a relationship, right? Whether you're in high school, whether you're married, whether you're divorced, whatever the situation is, so much of our identities we can tie up in the relationships, or not being in a relationship, you know?
Yeah. I mean, even just being like a 15, 16-year-old teenager, just trying to figure out your way in the world, trying to figure out who you are. That's really a huge part of the movie. And that's where I think it's like that trajectory of Cher, that character arc for her is really interesting because she kind of discovers a little bit more of her identity and who she, wants to be in the world and the kind of impact that she wants to have in the world. That is interesting. That didn't like immediately pop off the top of my head as like top of mind as a theme. I think it's a little bit hard for themes for this because they're very like you immediately think of the typical kind of comedy, high school comedy themes, like growing up themes. But yeah, I think identity plays a huge role.
And I think a lot of the supporting characters are representing those themes and the decisions they make and how they kind of traverse the same situations. And even Josh, one of the reasons he's sort of so attractive and lovable is because he's authentic and he, again, represents maybe the most honest character in the whole movie. He sort of jokes around with everybody. He is able to get along with adults. He makes, Cher's friends laugh. He makes her laugh. And so whereas maybe the other people, or you could accuse them of being a bit fake or a bit, plastic, as they might get called in other teen movies. I mean, even down to Stacey Dash's boyfriend calling her woman and them having a really quick, funny conversation about that not being misogynistic and blah, blah, blah. there's just all these little comments and moments about identity and what people are and what they mean to each other. And even again, the makeover of Brittany Murphy's character and who she looks like when she comes in and where she's at by the end and her sense of identity and what it's tied to her looking like. But I'm going to ask 1 out of 10 themes. What would you give?
7.
Such a quick on the draw there with the 7.
Yeah,
I love
7.
it. Okay. How what would he say? I couldn't be happier unless it was based on real grades, which I thought was a funny line from the movie. So I don't have any more scores to get from you, so I had to squeeze that in somewhere. But I do have a total from you now, Lori, so I can reveal what you gave Clueless. The plot, you gave the rare 6.75, mad respect. Characters and performances, 8.5. Visual storytelling, 10 out of 10. Use of sound, that's where we're still coming down from that. Use of sound, you gave a 7.5. Themes, you gave a 7 for a total of 79.5. That is almost an A. An A here starts at 80, so this is technically a B plus. What do you want to give it?
B plus? I think it's a B plus. Absolutely. And like a strong B plus.
No, I'm here for it.
Yeah.
As I teased earlier, now I'll reveal my score. To your 6.75, I gave the plot a 7. So very, very close. Not far off.
Wow.
Characters and performances, I gave it a 10. For me, I really feel like this is for what it is, for what the movie represents. It's I don't know, I couldn't really ask for more. So I gave it a 10 out of 10. Visual storytelling, I gave it an 8.5 to your 10. So we swapped there. Use of sound, I gave it a 9 to your 7.5. And then themes, I gave an 8 to your 7. So I gave it an 85. That's an easy A for me. An A to your B plus.
Wow. I mean, I'm a harsh grader. That's partly what the situation is here, is that
Your students would try to set you up with someone, is what you're saying, to try to get.
Yeah, probably. Absolutely. Because I'd be giving really shitty grades and they would not be happy. No,
AJ, your husband, let us know in the comments how you feel about that. Lori, happily married. We're happy to report here on Real Talk.
That's great.
With a beautiful baby, and it's not every day. I hope you don't mind my saying it's not every day that I get to have someone like yourself on the show, a director. This is how dedicated Lori is to the craft. You named your baby after your cinematographer, which is a move few professional. Honestly, I've never met anybody who's done that.
Shout out to Drew Sirocco.
Is that how you pronounce
out
that?
there listening?
Drew? No.
Drew Sirocco. If you're out there listening, yeah.
I'm
Sorry, I
almost
named
sure
my
he
child
isn't,
after you.
But
well, he will if you post this as a social clip
of
and
course,
tag him.
that's what I'll do. I'll clip this off just for you, Drew. Yeah. I love Drew Sirocco. His DMs can confirm that. Al the Lion is up in them. But anyway, no, AJ, I hope you're in the chat. You can confirm if you guys picked the name of your child based on Lori's demo reel, which is phenomenal. And I hope everybody goes, we have your website linked in the description. So I hope everybody goes over and checks it out. It's been a little while since we've been on set together, but some of my favorite pieces that I've ever done, we worked on together. So everybody should, of course, go check out your work. Lori, I loved having you here. It seemed like you enjoyed Clueless. Would you come back to the jungle sometime? Maybe review something else?
Of course, as long as there's a dance party and a sing-along. I'll be back to the jungle for sure.
Amazing. Can I put you on the spot? What maybe a Real Talk exclusive, other than why you named your child what you did? What are some of your favorite movies? What are a couple of your, maybe a favorite director or two?
Sorry.
No, it's okay. She's using ChatGTP to find the answer to this.
No. Robot, can you please tell me my favorite movie? I mean, like, I feel like There Will Be Blood. This is such a typical. But like, I love There Will Be Blood.
That's not typical. That's great.
I love The Shining.
Oh, what a great
I love
movie.
The Shining. I love Lady in the Water.
Oh, okay. That's a great movie. No, I'm
The
saying
most
like you're saying
random.
you're like the most typical list. There Will Be Blood, Lady in the Water, The Shining. That's
Um,
unique. That's a good list.
wait.
Okay, shout out to Bryce Dallas Howard. I'm a big
Moonstruck,
Oh, Moonstruck. Okay, wow.
Arrival.
Oh, Arrival's great. Yeah. Shout out to
The,
episode 2 of Real Talk.
so I think I like movies that are a little like different. Yeah, I think I also just like the ones that speak to me. Like Lady in the Water is like what? Like that's like the most random choice ever. But
No,
there's
but it's
about it that is like I'm like I this is great. I don't know.
it's a great choice. I'm here for Lady in the Water. If we ever review it, maybe I can give you a call. You can come back to the
Abs
jungle. We'll talk Lady in the Water.
Please call me for Lady in the Water
Okay.
and I will be there.
And it's booked.
We'll
All
talk
right.
about it.
Well, it's on record now. You can't get out of it. You'll have to cancel any previous engagements once I call. But it was lovely having you here. I mean it. I'm excited for you to come back. It was really fun watching Clueless. You yourself are far from clueless, so I hope at no point did you think I was trying to imply anything like that. Thank you for coming. And as they say in Clueless, Lori, I'm outie. Bye.
This was so much fun. Thanks for having me.
You got it.
As if.
Thanks for listening, and here's a look at the scoreboard from our show. Scoring the highest today was Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Mike Tullio graded it an 88 and an A to my 84 and an A with an 86 A average. Sid the Cinema Sloth gave a B plus and an 84 to European Vacation to my 56 and a C for an average of 70 and a B. And finally, Lori Schmone graded Clueless a 79.5 and a B plus to my 85 and an A for an 82.5 A minus average. Please tell me what you graded each film in the comments, as I really do want to know. A big thank you to Mike Tullio for stopping by, and be sure to check out his website linked in our bio. Subscribe now for more Sid the Cinema Sloth, and see all of Lori's work, which is also linked in the bio. Join us next time on episode 24, Rebels Stand Up. My dear friend Jen Tyson returns to review Sarah Silverman's Jesus is Magic. Sid the Cinema Sloth is back to discuss Patrice O'Neal's Elephant in the Room, and New York comedian Matt Summerstein makes his return to the show to discuss Bill Hicks's Relentless. Thanks to the team at Real Digital for producing this episode, and Platinum Plastic, who supplies all our show's merchandise on redbubble.com. If you haven't left a like by now, you might as well, and subscribe to the channel, as well as hit the bell icon to be notified when Real Talk drops. Thanks for listening, and if you're going to talk movies, make sure it's Real Talk.
It says 100% guaranteed, you moron.
Mister, if you don't shut up, I'm gonna kick 100% of your ass.